What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to be tying a Clouser pattern using Mustad tarpon hook here. Really great for when small baitfish pattern come in for stripers. Also, I use it for bass on occasion, but very heavy, gets down quick. Also, love the profile of a slim Clouser. It just looks very baitfishy like. So. I started just by wrapping my thread already, but I like to place the eyes about an eye length back, and just make crisscross wrappings. You don't want to crowd the eye too much, because when we put our deer hair on, you want room to sort of cinch it down, So just do some figure 8 wraps. I like to go underneath it too, so it wraps underneath the eyes just for extra stability. These, if you fish them in the salt, these flies take a absolute beating, so make sure that it's on there nice and sturdy. I take some super glue and just dab it on my line to keep the eyes. Looks like my super glue cap wasn't on all the way. I always super glue it because they do take a beating, so I just dab some on my thread here and do those wraps again, kind of figure 8 it and underneath. And it gets a good soaking, and make sure that they are nice and level, because once that super glue sets, you're probably not going to be able to move it. Alright, that looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. I like to look from the front too, it just helps get a visual. Okay, so next is I like to do a little bit of flash on the body, and you can use pretty much anything to make a flashy body, but I just like to use some Polarflash. And all I do, so here I just have Polarflash. Some guys use the body braid, but and I do that on occasion, but for today I just like the Polarflash. Alright, so I just wrap it back, and this body, I don't want it to go into the bend of the hook. I don't want it to go down. I just want it to be right before the bend. And so all I do, why I like this Polarflash better, I feel like it's more gritty. I don't know. Do the fish care? Probably not. So I just go all the way to the front. And just to give it a little extra flash, just to give it a little extra flash. And you guys can't see that very well, but there's just a little flash body there. So next is the deer hair, and I'm gonna start. You start on top first. I want this deer hair to lay flat. I don't want it to sprout up. So when you pick your hair from your deer tail, take it from the top end. And the biggest part with Clousers is don't take too much deer hair. You don't need a lot. You don't need a lot. So here I've grabbed just a very little amount. I don't really like that. There's a clump in there. I always take the rats out, so you grab the tips and then pull the shorter fibers out. So here, I'm not left, as you can see, I'm not left with a whole lot, which is fine. So here's where you're going to measure it out. Move your thread to the front, you're going to measure it out. And I want this one to be rather, lengthy, so I'm going to measure it out right about there. Cut your deer hair tips to line them up. And then when you go in, tie it in at an angle, so you want it to be facing this way, like this. That way it will roll over and sort of be easier to tie in at the head. So tie it in at an angle and then sort of roll it over. Okay, that was not great. Let's try that again. So once you get your wraps down out front, you'll have something like this, and you're going to want to move to the back, work towards the back, and I like to do 3 wraps out back there. I like to do 3. So now we have this nice, slim, laid down profile. Flip it to the underside. I'm going to add some flash in. This is Crystal Flash in Rainbow. Again, I don't want to add too many strands, so I just take maybe 3 or 4 strands. I like the rainbow, it just looks very fishy. So instead of tying it in, I just wrap it around my thread. It's much easier. So wrap it around your thread and bring it up and tie it in right on top, and then just lay it down. They'll kind of separate on their own, so when you start tying it back, just sort of make sure it's separated on either side. You can work all the way back to the eyes, and it's already pretty good distance, so I'm not going to cut it or anything. And then it's time to add the black. Again, we want it to lay down flat, so take it from the tip again. And again, this is not a lot of deer hair. Deer hair is very, looks bigger than it is, so you really don't need a lot. So I'm just going to measure it up, make sure it's roughly the same length. Pretty good right there. And then I'm going to cut my tips again and just make sure. Alright. So now I'm doing the same thing where I tie it at an angle just to trap the fibers. Oops. Tie it at an angle, trap the fibers, and then it's basically time to make the head, and that will be it. And my fibers keep slipping, so that's not good. If your fibers keep slipping, I'll just throw a little wax on there. Deer hair can be a little slick sometimes, so. And then just work back. Pull out any loose fibers. And if you have a straggler or two, it's not a huge deal. Don't worry too much about it. Alright, so before I finish it, I like to separate out the fibers just so they sort of lay, so they lay naturally before I do any finish work, Just separate out which side they should be on. And then work your way back, cinching them down. Make sure you really cinch them down. If you took deer hair from the top, no matter how hard you cinch it down, they won't flail up. So, if you took that advice, Alright, so before moving on, I again do a little bit of super glue. Just a little bit, not a lot. I do a little bit because the deer hair tends to slip out. It tends to slip after, you know, whatever, a dozen fish or so. This deer hair on the bottom tends to slip. So I put a little more super glue, and that way it's just a little more durable, can last a little longer. Okay, and it looks pretty good. So my final step is I just like to keep the all black going. I used white thread for this, but you can obviously use black thread. I like this, the Danville's flat waxed nylon thread. It just makes working with deer hair so easy. So I just color the white black when I'm going in to make my final. Make sure just to cover on the underside. Pretty good. And when you're ready, go ahead and finish it off, whip finish, and that's it. Very simple Clouser, but the all black with sort of a greenish rainbow flash in there. Oof, man, absolute killer. All right, so this is what we got. Here's our all black Clouser. Very nice. I just really like the profile. I just like this. It's slim, looks very bait fishy, swims well, easy to cast, deadly pattern. So thanks for watching, guys. The material list is at the bottom. If you got any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks for watching.